We all have multitudes of different identities and stories, and we need to honor those differences.
Hell no, we're not going anywhere. And our influence is way too grand to be denied.
So yeah, like the Oakland queer and trans community, the San Francisco, the Bay, like queer and trans community is really, really powerful.
You know, we're really beautiful people, and we really need to be supported in these really terrifying times.
In terms of being trans, I myself identify as a queer, transgender Filipino woman, right? A lot of people talk about gender dysphoria and they fail to acknowledge what gender euphoria is. But it's that sense of like being able to finally acknowledge who I am and present myself in the way I've always seen myself.
Chinese American drag king.
I moved to the Bay Area in 2015 for school. I went to UC Berkeley, and I've been here ever since. And I fell in love with the Bay Area, especially the queer and trans scene and the queer trans people of color scene, and the community here has been so integral to my identity and my art and just figuring out who I am and who I want to be.
Drag is more than just an art form. It's honestly, for me, personally, it's a lifestyle and it's a way of looking at the world.
I didn't come out as trans, non-binary, gender fluid, I use all those labels, until I moved here. And actually starting drag was what gave me the solidified my identity.
For me, being trans in the Bay Area is also being part of the drag community in the Bay Area. So now I identify as queer, non-binary, and trans, and just having that space to play with gender expression through drag was really just a powerful, beautiful thing, and enabled me to come to this beautiful realization for myself.
Growing up in the Bay Area has given me a lot of access to people of other genders. My gender and sexuality are pretty like tied up. I'm still having like a hard time figuring it out, but I, identify as a lesbian both on the gender side and the sexuality side. I think that people are forgetting that you can just do whatever the hell you want. I think that if anybody's gonna watch this, they should like take away like you should help other people and you should do whatever the hell you want. You can call yourself whatever you want.
I would say I'm very privileged to be trans in the Bay Area, right? Because as I mentioned before, it is generally a more welcoming and open place. I do get misgendered pretty often, but usually when I correct people, it's not a big deal. But it's not to say that I don't experience, unfortunate things, because transphobia, racism, ableism, all that, it exists everywhere.
I think what a lot of people believe is that California is in this kind of like this bubble, right? Where LGBTQ folks of all varying gender identities and sexual orientations are fully accepted. From lived experience, it's really not. And it really depends on which area of California that you live in. Even here in the Bay Area, specifically in the South Bay, we still see instances of lack of acceptance for LGBTQ folks, especially LGBTQ youth.
When we talk about just as a society like unhoused people, we really miss how many of those people are queer or trans in some way. QUICC, which is Queers United in Community Care, we're a mutual aid organization that kind of formed out of the George Floyd protests. Trans and queer unhoused people and trans and queer youth are just even more marginalized, even within a lot of other mutual aid type organizations, especially religious organizations. We all know the Salvation Army is super homophobic and transphobic, so there's a real need for queer and trans people to be getting access to mutual aid support. So it's really important to me that we have a group that is staffed by people who are queer and trans who do work explicitly geared towards and for queer and trans people who are unhoused or who are in need of aid.
We do have a gender health center here locally, right? But we only have one LGBTQ center. And when you think about, San Francisco that has multiple LGBTQ centers, right? Or even Oakland that has a lot of spaces for queer and trans folks to be able to congregate. Here in the South Bay, one of the biggest challenges is that we really have a lack of spaces to achieve true equity. It's a long way to get there. And in terms of what folks of cis experience, in terms of what they could do to be stronger allies, is just to listen with empathy, right? To understand where we're coming from.
I wish cis people would stop talking so much about things they don't understand. I wish they'd listen, and I wish they'd accept that, like, there are going to be people who you just don't understand, or you think are weird, or who you think are, like, freaky, and that, like, that's okay.
I challenge cisgender people to be able to, if there's anything that's holding them back, what is that's not being addressed? What is it about you that prohibits you from understanding that trans people are just meant to exist?
There are so many things about us that make us beautiful, and I think it's something that makes me beautiful. I love being trans in the Bay Area.
This is where I implore transgender people to be able to be bold enough to share their story, be visibly out, and be okay with who they are.
The Bay is a really, really good place to be queer in terms of community.
Remember that there is so much joy and love in the world, and that love is infinite, especially queer and trans love. So thank you all today. I'm so grateful to be here, to be here. And now, because again, I'm a pun king, I'm gonna buzz off.